Season 3, Episode 2 of Servant was titled Hive. Dorothy hosts a Mommy and Me group, but Leanne finds it that she cannot trust strangers. What is going on to all my Servant fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, breaking down the latest episode of Apple TV Plus Servant, Season 3, Episode 2, an episode in which we see Leanne cannot trust any outsiders. But speaking of trust, we see that the Turners don't trust that they made a good decision in allowing Leanne to stay under their roof. We're breaking it all down here in this spoiler review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to this channel, we are on the quest to 20,000 subscribers. So if you want to be a part of this community, make sure you're subscribed and you're hitting that notification bell. And as you all can see on the screen now, if you enjoyed this review, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you're liking this video, but more importantly, share the video. If you know anyone else that loves the show just as much as we do, share the video with them, but also leave your thoughts in the comments, your pros, your cons, what Easter eggs did you all pick out in this episode, what was your favorite moment, least favorite moment, and of course, share your thoughts and theories of what you hope to see in the coming episodes in the comment section. So let me just give you all my initial thoughts before we break down this episode in its entirety. First and foremost, I do have a criticism that I'm going to bring up really early on in this review. We'll get to that, a little bit of a nitpick, but overall, when I saw that Ishana Shyamalan was directing this episode, I got so excited. She was my MVP last year. She directed, I want to say, 2 episodes, season 2, episode 3 pieces she directed. She directed the season finale and also wrote that episode, and she wrote some other episodes last season. She's a absolute beast. I love what her direction style, her sensibilities are. I love the combination between her directing, her dad writing. She creates such great tension. She knows how to use the camera. She's fantastic. So the direction was like incredible to me. We'll get into it more in this review, but just the episode as a whole, are they regular people? Are they lesser saints? Is Dorothy and Sean going to kick Leanne out and she's going to tear this house down? I'm loving these first 2 episodes so far and what we're leading up to. So I really enjoyed the episode, but I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. So let's actually break it all down as we open up with the Turners beefing up their security after 3 months ago, them having that unwelcome guest in Josephina. They had a robber in their house last week, so it makes sense that they're adding more security. I think Sean said it was like $6,000 worth of security, but my only nitpick so far in this episode, I just find it hard to believe that Leanne's the only one in this house that is on pins and needles. I would think that Dorothy, out of all people, would be more concerned about allowing strangers into the house more so than Leanne herself, because just think about Dorothy as a character. Number one, she had her son, Jericho, kidnapped all last year. Number two, she had the incident with Josephina 3 months ago. And then just a week ago, you had someone robbing your house. So I would think, logically speaking, Dorothy would be just as nervous, just as scared to allow strangers in her house, more so than Leanne. And even Sean, to that extent, knowing the supernatural elements, knowing more about the lesser saints than Dorothy. So I just find it kind of hard. To me, it feels like the story is dumbing down the characters just to have the narrative that Leanne's on pins and needles more so than they are. So that's just kind of my nitpick so far. And trust me, I know it's Dorothy, right? We're talking about the newscaster. She loves attention. She always seeks attention. So I understand that she would want people to inevitably come back in the house, have some type of normalcy. But I just find it so convenient that it's so soon, in my opinion. But that's my only nitpick. Let's get back into the episode. Let me know if you're on the same page as me. But either here nor there, we see that they're inviting these moms and dads to their house. I believe Julian called them the society, the rich society people. So they want Jericho to be more integral in the community and be more of a family, an influential family in their neighborhood. But I find it so interesting within these opening moments. We see Leanne, and this catches her off guard. Sean did not tell her about this, how many people were coming to the party. And they're having this discussion, and the words Leanne's using, we as a family, we didn't talk about this. And when she said that, I just went back to my memory bank. I'm just thinking of the events so far that we've led up to this point that she feels like this is her family. And it makes so much sense because we know Leanne at this point, and we got her backstory last year and still wanting more of her backstory. But knowing where she came from as a little girl, the relationship she had with her mom, knowing that she grew up in a cult, and now she finally feels secure. She finally feels like she's found her people, but it's just a matter of time that I think she's more in love with the idea she found her family. I don't think Sean and Dorothy really love her. I think that they're just smoking mirrors. They're just like, yeah, you're part of the family. We've got to get her out of here sooner rather than later. And when that time happens, it's going to be a conflict. But I just find it so interesting that she feels so comfortable with them, but I don't think that's being reciprocated. So it's going to be really interesting to see when that kind of hits the fan. But more interesting enough, Sean's back at it, ladies and gentlemen. He's back to cooking his weird-ass foods. This is a mommy, daddy, baby gathering party. I'm thinking cakes, ice cream, cupcakes, but no, Dominican food is amazing, by the way, but I don't think you have a goat's head at this type of event, but hey, leave it to Sean to bring a goat's head into this party as the main course. But the party is lit. Everyone's having a good time. We got Mr. Smiley, which I'm being funny. The party looks, I would not want to be in that room with a bunch of crying babies, but either here nor there, the party's going on, and we see that Julian's over and Vieira's over. And I just want a little side note here, because I know someone mentioned it last week in the comments. Julian's new girlfriend, Vieira. Do we think she is a Lesser Saints member? Do we think she's infiltrating the Turners to get more information, to break it all down and send it back to their leader? Or is she just a nice, regular person? Let me know your thoughts on her, and can we trust her? Because there was moments in this episode where she was like saying these little interesting comments, little weird looks. Let me know. Can we trust her? Is she a Lesser Saints member? But moving on, Leanne meets everyone at the party, and, she imagines first when she walks to the room, she sees all the women being like Lesser Saints members. She sees they have the dagger. She's on pins and needles. She's very scared right now. She can't trust strangers. But we see that at this moment, and I don't put it past the Lesser Saints to have these people being brought into the house pretending to be regular folks. But even this moment here, we see that this is the mystery box. This is what I'm loving about the tension that was created in this episode. We have one of the mothers talking to Dorothy, and she mentions, didn't you guys have an incident recently with Julian, his addiction, and just a couple summers ago, you had, police out of your front door. It was almost if she was trying to pry information out of Dorothy. She was trying to make her remember what happened to Jericho and to bring all that stuff back up to fruition. So it was just moments like that to me. It's like, I love that, because as an audience, you're like, that's weird. Why would you bring that up in this circumstance, in this situation? You would think that would be more of like a solo conversation. So I'm starting to believe Leanne. I'm starting to think that these are some Lesser Saints members, and we see Leanne tell Sean how to kind of navigate, how to figure out if someone's a Lesser Saints member. She mentions the food they eat, the way they dress, the way they talk. So I'm like, okay, I'm looking at these, people in the house and seeing if it is true that they're a Lesser Saints member. But we see Leanne has her moment where she spots some scratches on one of the women's house, or one of the mother's backs. She rushes over to Sean. She bumps into him, and he spills a red, I don't know what it was, probably some, something for his Dominican food. He spills that on her, and you notice that it was red and it was on her stomach. So I don't know if I'm just foreshadowing or thinking too much into it. I think that's foreshadowing for Sean being the one that's going to try to maybe stab Leanne come season finale, come season 4 finale, or come this season. Or it's indicating that maybe Leanne is going to have a baby coming soon, and who knows, baby daddy Toby, baby daddy Julian, or maybe that relationship, that bond that has grown over these 3 years, maybe she's going to talk Sean into having some sexual intercourse with her, and a baby's coming. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. Let me know your thoughts on that. But moving on, see the lady asking Dorothy a bunch of questions and weird questions, and now we see one of the moms makes her so weird. She walks all the way upstairs just to get some fresh air, and she happens to go into Leanne's room and being all weird, looking for the pacifier. Come on. Yeah, listen, I think these are, and I love this so far in the show about who's a Lesser Saints member, who's not. I'm thinking Lesser Saints are in this building. I think that these women, maybe not all of them, but I think some of those were Lesser Saints members, especially the woman that was in her room. Am I tripping? Let me know your thoughts on, were there some Lesser Saints member in the house? But we see Julian, he dismisses Leanne about what she's thinking about and all that stuff. And we see her going to her room, and she's talking to Josephina behind the wall. And she's saying to her that she's no longer afraid, and she will do whatever it takes to protect this house. And she's willing to do anything to do that. So leave it to someone named Mr. Smiley to have his weird moment with Leanne as he's coming out of the bathroom. And he walks towards her. She's like, stay back, Mr. Smiley. I got a knife. Stay the way back from me. I don't know if you all noticed when, again, the camera work was fantastic. They zoomed into his mouth, and you notice his teeth were not looking the best, right? His hygienes are not the best. It reminded me so much of Uncle George, another member, Mr. Smiley. Is he a member? I think he was. But we see Dorothy trying to get the party back together, and they're like, okay, yeah, you're babysitter's a little bit crazy, but we'll continue to have this party at the moment. But we see that she demands that Mr. Smiley show everyone his back, which he does. We as an audience don't see what's on his back. Who knows? They could have, put some makeup on his back to cover his scars, but so far he's in the clear. He's not a Lesser Saints member, but I think Mr. Smiley was a Lesser Saint. I mean, those teeth really reminded me of Uncle George's teeth. But I love, again, going back to Ishana's direction. The camera work was fantastic. The pacing was fantastic. But the decision that she has when the camera was like off tilt when Dorothy was talking to Leanne just speaks to their imbalance in their relationship to me. So again, the camera work was fantastic. But we see Dorothy gives her super mommy speech to all the moms and dads. We remember what happened with Julian last week, right? Notice that the very next scene after Leanne and Dorothy have that talk, very similar to last week when Sean showed, Julian having fun with Vieira and what happened to the seagulls and all that. Very next scene when Leanne has that talk with Dorothy, the hive, the bees come in. We have to talk about this. Leanne is definitely channeling her inner demons. She is definitely embracing the darker side of herself. She has these bees. I don't think anyone was stung, but it's just her allowing her stress, her anger to come out. And it's all tied to this house, of course, but she is the one that had the hive come out again. He's evil. You did not want to be on her bad side. See the exterminator coming over and talking to Sean and giving him his reasons on why this happened. And this is where I think Sean is starting to put the pieces to the puzzle. Like, it's Leanne. It's the supernatural that I've already seen in my own self in the research that I find. So I think he's starting to realize it's Leanne's doing. As we kind of wrap up the episode, we see Julian is even doubting the loyalty from Leanne, which we all know that's going to come to head one of these days in regards to Julian really giving it to Leanne and maybe something bad happening to him. We already know he almost died last year, but as we see last scene here, Leanne's brushing the hair of Dorothy, and they're talking about Jericho and how this is the right thing for Jericho, and we see Leanne says everything that he needs, everything you need is right here. She's really want to keep her family safe because she knows what happens with her, her mom and her dad. We know her relationship with the cult, but she now feels safe, secure, and she wants to protect her family. But we see the doubts in Dorothy's eyes as she tells Dorothy feels like she's been cursed, and we see Leanne say to her, everything is meant to be. You got a demon babysitter. I think right now, Leanne, the older she's getting, the more she's becoming more of a woman, the more confidence she's gaining herself, the more she's embracing her darker side. So I'm loving what's going on so far with Leanne. I'm loving that she's kind of, I'm not loving that she's embracing the darker side, but it's going to bring more of the supernatural. It's going to address more of the questions that we had in regards to, can we trust Leanne? And that's the biggest thing so far in these 3 seasons. She seems like she means well, but we really don't know her true intentions. We know what happened to her mom. We know what happened to certain members. We know that she literally killed someone last year in self-defense, but she has a dark side, and I'm loving that this season is focusing on that dark side. But just wrapping it all up, what I loved about this episode was the mystery element in regards to, are these rich people, normal folk? Are they Lesser Saints member? I mentioned Ishana Night Shyamalan. Give her more episodes. Let her direct her own show, a spinoff of like a prequel of Leanne or a prequel of the Lesser Saints. I love Ishana. I hope she's directing and writing more episodes this season because she's an absolute superstar. And I love the combination of her direction and her dad's writing is like really, really great for me. And the question is, will Sean and Dorothy want Leanne to be in their house for much longer? Who's going to be the first one to call out Leanne getting out? Will it be Sean? Will it be Dorothy? I can't wait to find out. But hey, that's just my thoughts, my breakdown of this latest episode of Servant. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, the pros, the cons, the Easter eggs. What did you think about the episode? What do you hope to see in the weeks ahead? If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Again, make sure you're liking the video, sharing the video, subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content, and again, leave your thoughts in the comments. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you enjoyed this review. As you all can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel, check out my other content, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Servant.